and gentlemen, we begin our expo with a conversation that is both timely and essential. Reclaiming the silver screen. Why would moviegoers come to theaters when they can get it at home after 4 weeks? In 2025, the film industry stands at crossroads. The traditional theatrical release model, once the cornerstone of film distribution, now faces unprecedented challenges. The rise of OTT platforms has transformed audience expectations, with many films making their digital debut just weeks after their theatrical release. This shift has led to a significant change in viewing habits, with a notable decline in cinema attendance for mid and small budget films. One of the most talked about examples is Aamir Khan's Sitaare Zameen Par, which we were just talking about, which premiered in the theaters on June 20th, 2025. And then they adopted a YouTube pay-per-view release on August 1st, 2025. This strategy has sparked discussions about the future of theatrical releases and how cinema can reinvent themselves to remain relevant. This evolving landscape raises many critical questions. How can cinemas adapt to the changing dynamics? What strategies can they employ to entice audiences back into the theaters? And how can the magic of the big screen be preserved in the era dominated by digital convenience? Now, to explore these pressing issues, we're truly delighted to have a distinguished panel of industry leaders. It is my pleasure to introduce and welcome on stage our speakers for this discussion. We have with us Mr. Rahul Dhyani, founder of Complex Cinemas, whose company recently launched its IPO, which we just talked about minutes earlier, signaling ambitious growth in the cinema sector. Congratulations, sir. May I please invite you on stage. Next, may I please request Mr. Rahul Puri, Managing Director of Mukta A2 Cinemas, which recently opened its first opulence premium format cinema in Vadodara, elevating the movie-going experience, to please join us on stage. Today, we are happy to have Mr. Thomas D'Souza, Senior Vice President of Programming at PVR Inox, known for innovative programming and deep insights into audience behavior. Can we please welcome our speakers on stage with a round of applause? Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Next, may I please invite Tushar Dhingra, founder and managing director of Rave Cinemas, driving expansion and family-centric multiplex experiences across India. Next, may I please invite Vaishali Hanumant, managing partner at DRC Cinemas, Mysore, recognized for her engagement with regional audiences and contribution to the local film industry. Guiding this insightful discussion today is Vanita Kohli Khandekar, renowned columnist and contributing editor at Business Standard, whose expertise in media and entertainment makes her the perfect moderator for this first session. Without further ado, let's delve into this critical conversation and give our esteemed panelists a huge round of applause.
May I request the two Rahuls to be separate, because it will cause a lot of confusion during the discussion.
Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry about that, because it's easier for the audience to understand who's speaking. Hi, morning. Chennai is having a late start this morning. Lovely to have all these people here, and lovely to be here at the big Cine Expo. This is my first time here. You know, we were talking about this in the speaker's lounge. India has all these large, bombastic adjectives attached to it as the largest film-producing country and entertainment-loving population, etc. But the fact is, on screen counts, on ticket sales, and on monetization, we have a lot to achieve. And for the last 5 years, we've been stuck at in that range of 800 to 900 million tickets sold every year. About 120, 25 million Indians go to the theater every year. And our box office has been stuck at roughly 12,000 crores for 5 years now. That's where it is, right? You know, so all this discussion about reclaiming silver screens, what would moviegoers do, etc., I think all of that makes sense when your market has grown fully, achieved its full potential and stabilized. We are still in growth phase. We've not exhausted all modes of expansion. And it is with that spirit, instead of talking about a gloom and doom situation, I'm saying how the hell do we expand more or reclaim silver screens by expanding more. But before we get into that, I wanted each one of you to just tell us quickly and briefly where you're coming from in terms of what your company does, and therefore, you know, it sort of contextualizes the discussion. Rahul Dhyani, who's clearly the star of the show, you've raised 90 crore just now, so I'm very impressed, you know, by the complex model, so please, you can first.
Hi, good morning and welcome everyone. My name is Rahul Dhyani. Let me be. Thank you. So my name is Rahul Dhyani. I'm the founder and director of Complex Cinemas Limited. And yeah, we are now into the cinema industry since last 4 years, having around 75, 77 operational screens across India in more than about 7 states now. Thank you. Thank you.
And you must use the line you told me that you're the Uber of the theatrical world.
Yes, so we work as a Uber of cinema, and majority we are on the franchising of cinema spaces. Thank you.
Okay. Tushar, you take on.
Namaskar everyone. My name is Tushar Dhingra. I have been an executive for some years. I was CMO for PVR when it was a startup. Then I have worked for Reliance Big Cinemas and operated cinemas across India, Nepal, Malaysia, Mauritius, etc. I was briefly CEO for Smash Entertainment. Now I have a privately held and family-owned business, and we are trying to expand the cinema market by going to some of the cinemas that we operate are one of the first ones in those districts. Ayodhya's first, Junjunu's first, Ponta Sahib's first, Badayu's first cinema are ours. The idea is if we can really expand that market, maybe Ayodhya can give another crore towards Sitaare Zameen Par. So those are the numbers that will stack up and the way they will stack up. Thank you.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Thomas D'Souza. I take care of programming at PVR and Inox. I've completed my 20 years in this particular field. Starting from 2004, I'm doing the same programming. And we operate 1,750 plus screens in all over India. Thank you.
I am Rahul Puri. I'm Managing Director of Mukta Arts. We have our cinemas business, Mukta E2 Cinemas, which operates now about 70 screens, 75 screens across the world. So India, Bahrain, Saudi. And we have been in the business now for coming up to 15 years, so it's been a while. You know, we've learned a lot, I think, about the exhibition business. And yeah, I'm interested in listening more than sharing to what people have to say.
I have to share also, Rahul. Can't be listening. You are a speaker. Vaishali.
Hello, good morning everybody. I'm Vaishali Hanuman, Managing Partner DRC Cinemas from the city of Mysore. We started our first multiplex in Mysore in 2011, and I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. Great. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better panel to discuss this, this thing. So first of all, I mean, why is there this sense of, you know, we need to reclaim the silver screen? Sure, Windows is a problem, but Windows is a problem across the world. I speak to global analysts and they tell me that wahan bhi, you know, there's no decided window. A film could come to the pay-per-view or to OTT screen in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 weeks sometimes. So what really, Is OTT the issue? I think is the size of the market and screen density. What are the issues here? Anybody wants to take this first? Rahul?
So, मैम बहुत सारे कंट्रीज में ऐसा होता है कि वहाँ पे यूरोप की कंट्रीज है वहाँ पे ऑथोरिटीज 6 वीक विंडो 8 वीक विंडो के लिए प्लान करते हैं ओटीटीज उसके बाद में वहाँ पे लाइक आफ्टर सिनेमा ओटीटी पे रिलीज होता है तो कहीं ना कहीं ये इन्वॉल्वमेंट अभी इंडिया में भी चाहिए हम लोगों को फ्रॉम द मिनिस्ट्रीज एंड द अथॉरिटीज के नहीं
Ministry ko, why do you want to involve ministry for when film
We
should
need
be
some
put
kind
on?
of regulation over here. 4 वीक विंडो वैसे तो देखो 4 वीक से ज्यादा मूवी अगर सिनेमा में रहती नहीं है जनरली तो एंड कहीं ना कहीं हम लोगों को वी नीड दैट बिगर विंडो फॉर
Why can't the industry get together and negotiate with the producers body and say we will not take a film if it doesn't come for stay with us for 8 weeks.
True.
What stops theatre owners from doing that?
No, I mean, look, I think a lot is made of this window business. The reality is it's kind of twofold, right? If movies were running fantastically well, if they had people piling in to watch them into the 5th and 6th week, I mean, this wouldn't even be a discussion. There wouldn't be an argument here, right? The reality is that sometimes I feel that we operate slightly on the back foot. We're constantly operating on the back foot. There will always be producers who seek to, I guess, circumvent the theatrical window. That's in their best interests. I don't want to say anything that is in their, they feel that's in their best interests, fair enough. I think what we have to focus on is the value that we can create for producers at the theatrical window. If we can show producers that there is strong value for them in the theatrical window, then the reality is that you will find less producers looking to bypass it. And the reality is that that is something that is undeniably true. You cannot argue that a film that comes first to the theatrical window, then comes to the pay-per-view or the video-on-demand window, then goes to the satellite window, then goes to the terrestrial window. You cannot argue that that film is not going to make, it's not going to make more money. Of course it's going to make more money. This is in the producer's best interests because this window is created specifically for them. We don't do OTT shows in cinemas. We don't do Big Boss in cinemas. We only do big format films. That's the only thing that comes to cinemas. All right, okay, occasionally you will have cricket matches and IPL matches, but there's no other format that comes to cinemas. This is built entirely for producers who make movies. What we have to sell is we have to sell a story of the value that is here. If we can sell that story, and I think the too much of the conversation in the last, certainly since COVID, too much of the conversation has been about, what is going to happen to cinemas, doom and gloom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, whereas the reality of technology and streaming and the internet is something you cannot deny. You can't put your head in the sand like an ostrich. You can't do that. But at the same time, that is not the same medium as this. It is not the same experience.
Absolutely.
And we have to be bullish about the experience that we are providing. And I think that if, the majority of producers do accept that. I'm not saying that they don't. Absolutely they do accept that. And really, this discussion comes up once or twice a year because there's 1 or 2 producers who will try to circumvent that. But the majority, 99.9% of the producers want to come to the cinemas. That is their stated goal.
Absolutely. In fact, even streaming services say that you should have had a theatrical release before we talk streaming deal. So that is standard. Vaishali, what's your experience been like? And is this more, you think this is more like a Bombay-Delhi discussion? I find many discussions are Bombay-Delhi, Chennai kind of discussions. And you know, even if I look at newspapers, for example, Malala Manorama is doing perfectly fine, but it is the Times of India which is suffering. So the discussion gets sort of tilted in a direction.
Correct. Yeah, I completely agree with you because I come from a regional player. I'm basically a regional player. And for us, the regional languages are amazing. If the content is good, and even if they know that after 4 weeks there is an OTT release, it's an experience that they come to. So I'm not finding it that difficult in my city that they would like to come to cinema. It's for the experience of it. They don't care whether after 4 weeks you are going to get it in OTT or anything like that. It's an experience that they want to experience there. You know, big format. F1, for example, was amazing and did wonderfully well.
In which, English or
English.
Kannada?
English.
English.
No Kannada. It's only English.
Only English.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dub. This thing is not.
No, it's not dubbed. And we always play English, only English, no dubbed version. Even Jurassic World, all of that big, as Rahul was telling, it's an experience. The big format movies are made for the theaters and not for OTT, I think.
Super. Oh, Thomas, Tushar, you were.
So I think windowing conversation ended
Ended, okay.
when Avatar did $1.2 billion without Russia and without China. That is the day Windows collapsed. That is the post-COVID world that started. Tell me you making Ramayana or you making a Superman, how the hell would you not play it out in the cinemas?
Absolutely.
And get that number of box office that you're looking for? We all have kitchens in our home, at our homes. Why do we eat out? We need social experiences. The collective laughter or the horror that you experience in a cinema cannot be done. A joke lands much better when you're sitting with people. It gives you that, it takes away the inhibition and the problems and the escape that the cinema is known for. Now we also talk about the availability of content. Tell me for last 40 years piracy is not happening. Piracy is happening on the first day of the movie release. The content is available. There is a certain set of people who would watch it there. There are other issues that we need to talk about. I think one thing, whatever we do with the windows is one part. Don't tag the OTT services logo on your trailer.
Absolutely. Aamir said that. I interviewed him. He said, if you're putting Netflix or Prime or whoever there, right in the theater, you're telling my audience that this film is going to come. If you do that, you've half killed the film.
It's a disservice to us. We all have to, there is a monetization path, we should follow that. The money should flow into the ecosystem. There is a balance to be sought where theatrical revenues plus OTT plus other revenues should aid the overall ecosystem so that overall the pie grows.
Exactly. Thomas, I want you to jump in and then I have a follow-up because everybody's raised points which I need to bring out.
Just to continue from where Tushar has ended, like I agree with what he's saying. OTT or streaming is nothing but just a alternate of home entertainment like satellite or any other this thing we have. So in 2016 when OTT came in India, it was not that threatening for us because it was one of the satellite thing, like how satellite was there, it was a OTT. But post-COVID, when these films started going on OTT directly, that's where the windows got collapsed, as Tushar also rightly mentioned. And that window collapsing has started becoming a concern because there was this perception in audience's mind whether this movie will come in cinema or not. Like in India, we produce around 1,500 to 1,700 films. In that, I think not even 10 films have been sold on this OTT. But that 90% of the films has that perception in audience's mind whether this movie, will wait for this movie to watch it at home. So that perception needs to be changed. And that's why this OTT window, which is internationally, if you'll see, you have a 3 months OTT window, and
Okay, yeah.
and there's a separate window for PVOD. What Mr. Aamir Khan have done is the
Is it TV?
PVOD model, which is different from what OTT is.
Yeah. Yeah, Tushar, you.
देखिए कंटेंट जब तक क्लिक करता है ना, if a theatrical trailer drops, you know it's going to go here or not. Sayyara was nothing but a great way of telling you that. If the content connects, there is a sense of urgency that comes in the paying audience. Then they throng the cinemas. That happened with the Stree, that happened with the Uri, that happened with so
12th
many
fail.
others. Yeah? So if that connects, people will not be waiting for OTT. And there are many people who do walk away from theatrical films also and look at how many drops, all of us are watching OTTs. How much of it are you watching? Not everything clicks, right? So,
Okay, okay, fine. Let's cap the window thing here. But one of the things all of you've talked about is experience. And the thing which is really dear to my heart is how do we expand this market? And if better experiences mean, see, the habit did get broken during the pandemic. And we cannot deny that the habit got broken, and that has also acted and probably had an impact on metro markets more than anywhere else, because people like you and I have many options, but not everybody in every city has an option. But my point is, whether it is a better experience in terms of screens in there, actually having screens, whether having good screens with the right pricing, with the right films, I don't see a lot of work happening. So I'm hearing about Complex, I heard about SVF Entertainment has started setting up screens because it saw its box office takings going down. And it says, I need to, it's like a backward integration. It's actually a studio kind of thing. They said, I think they've done 53 or 54 screens so far. And they have actually seen their box office takings double. Are we seeing more? Is there more that could be done to expand the market, to expand the pie instead of worrying about windows? Because I think you're putting the cart before the horse, so to say.
Yeah, I firmly believe that there needs to be an expansion in the number of screens. I think it's always going to be risky. It's always going to be risky.
Interrupt. Expansion in number of screens and expansion of number of people going to the screens there.
But I think that's a knock-on effect, right? I think that's a knock-on effect. I think part of the problem is that in a lot of places in India, you still have people who have to travel 30, 40 kilometers to go to a theater. Now, in that scenario, they might want to. I'm not saying that they don't want to. They might want to. But in that scenario, convenience, easier. Okay, there's a television at home. It's connected to the internet. All of those things come into play. You see, I think that we have to understand that, particularly in the metro markets, we are now in what is called the attention economy, right? Without doubt, we are in the attention economy, okay? And yes, you can call OTT, streaming, all of those kinds of things, but even they're struggling. They're struggling because the next generation of consumers who are 15 years old, 16 years old, et cetera, they're spending 5.5 to 6 hours looking at their phone, right? So everything that is happening here, whether it's streaming or it's television or it's film or it's live events or it's all of those things, we are all competing for entertainment, right? And as Tushar absolutely correctly said, it is a question of grabbing that attention, right? So a great theatrical trailer grabs somebody's attention. It pulls them in, it sucks them in, and yes, okay, there's still 4 weeks to wait, but at least it is like it's like a build-up to an iPhone launch, right? It has that date penciled in, right? That yes, this film is coming, whether it was War 2 this weekend or Kuli this weekend, there is an anticipation of these movies. I think a lot of pressure is coming on this idea of cinemas have to do something organically to be able to drive the footfalls. But the reality is this is always going to be a dual process. Cinemas can only drive footfalls if there is content there to pull people into the theaters, right? Now, if you look at this summer, we've had a pretty good supply of movies. All right, maybe not the greatest IP for India, but Jurassic World, you had a Superman, you had a Fantastic Four, you had an F1, you had a full supply of these films that have come through, and globally the box office has responded to those films. All right, maybe you didn't have a film that perhaps broke out to $1 billion, but they all did, 500, 600 million, et cetera, et cetera. And that is because there is an intrigue value, there is a content that the audience want to go and watch. That will always be a dual process. And we have to ask ourselves the question, are we producing enough content that is intriguing enough to pull people into the theaters?
That's an age-old question. Over 110 years of cinema, every year we produced good, bad, average films. So the year that a Sujata and a Kagas Ke Phool released, some perfectly forgettable films also released. So that's the nature of the creative business.
And I don't think...
it's the marrying of the creative with the science.
I don't think that it's necessarily about what is the final output of the film.
Okay.
It's a question of how do you create intrigue in the audience's mind to give that film a chance. See, we're not in the Kagas Ke Phool world anymore.
No, we are
where
not.
cinema was in its primacy. We're not in that.
Right.
We know now that there is an OTT, there is a satellite, there is something else that people can do with their lives.
Correct.
So we have to work harder to get them into the theaters, no?
May I give you an example from another industry?
Please.
Tata has a JV with Zara. They've been here for 15 years. They have 23 stores. Zudio in last 4 years have done 600 plus stores. So if you see, the first leg of multiplex development happened at the tier 1 stage. Our economy has grown, and so is the demand. So 725 odd districts is what we have in the country. I believe 400 do not even have cinemas, which are where the toilets are clean, where projection is right, and the seat you could sit at. There are generational women and children who have not gone to cinemas.
You were sharing an example, Tushar, there. You want to...
When I was working for big cinemas, and I'm taking the name of Mangalore because it's closer to the space, I met a gentleman who came to me and said, "This is my grandson's first film. I am coming back to cinema after 15 years. So these are stories which I think a lot of people carry and have. And there is a big issue that people really do not have access.
You find that Vaishali and Rahul Dhyani, particularly Dhyani, Vaishali first, and Rahul, because he's doing this model where he shares the know-how, the tech, etc. But it's a franchisee model. So are you getting franchises from unknown towns? But first, Vaishali, you're expanding onto a second property. What's your experience been?
We are now expanding into Coorg. As he rightly said, we need to go to tier 3 cities where people have to experience it. That's our take also. And last 4 weeks back, we had a regional language movie, So From So. And every single day it's houseful in my theater. 4 weeks.
It's top 5 on the Ormax list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fourth week, last Sunday we had 16 shows full. People are coming at 7 a.m. to see the movie. And it has got no star cast, amazing content. Again, content is the king. So that has given us a lot of hope. And I have seen, like he said, lot of new generation people who are coming to see Kannada movies.
Okay. Okay. Rahul, do you find that more of your franchises or any of the new ones coming up from places where there are no screens, or it's still, what has your experience been?
So, we created this model for like tier 2 and tier 3 model, right? And when we actually started giving the franchisee, we understood there are lots of many entrepreneurs are there in like tier 2, tier 3 who want to have their own cinema, right? And we have an audience in tier 2, tier 3 towns, we have, a good number of occupancy level out there. We have a good ticket pricing out there. And repeat ratio is also good for the, in these towns.
What kind of occupancy are you talking?
So last year, I guess I was around 28% national occupancy.
Thomas, one thing, when we are talking tier 3, do you find that programming variations are strong since you handle it at a national level? Do you find, or that, I don't know how many properties PVR has in tier 2, tier 3, but how, do you find programming variations are strong?
Sometimes it becomes very difficult in the small town to do the programming, but since we have that strength of 1750 screens, so quite manageable.
No, my point is what works in smaller towns, is that starkly different from what works in, like Vaishali was talking about Kannada.
Yes, yes, of course. The content mix is pretty much different than what it is in tier 1 cities. Like if you have a movie like Sayara, which is a romantic film, which has done quite well in tier 2 and tier 3 cities than the tier 1 cities.
Correct. I still haven't seen the film, and everybody is telling me what a
There is
big
this another film called Mahavatar Narasimha.
Narasimhan. Yeah.
That movie also has seen some phenomenal numbers, particularly in these small towns.
Fantastic. So
We
that
have to
tells you-
also, in
sorry.
words, we say that we have to expand the market. There are these small and medium films that come in. They come with limited release and limited print counts. 95% of it gets consumed between PVR, Inox, Cinepolis. It is not spent further down the India that we want to get into. Talk is cheap. You know, all the producers and distributors sit and talk about it and say that we want to expand it. यहाँ cinema खोलिए, हम ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे. When it comes to doing something, I think there is a problem. If you do not put the content out there, nothing will happen.
But they say the other thing, that they do not, the theatre owners do not let a film stay for a bit. You know, the
वो ना
first-
एक perennial
एक दोनों
struggle है.
तरफ से-
That is a different struggle. But if you starve, we are
I agree.
resellers of content.
I agree. Sorry. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think it's a little rich to tell a theater owner whose livelihood comes from that theater being full that why are you not running my film when he knows that your film is running to like a 10% occupancy. I think that's a little rich, frankly. I think to Tushar's point, which I think is very true, at the end of the day, we can expand the market and we can build cinemas in tier 2 and more rural areas. But the product has to get there, right?
Absolutely.
At the end of the day. If the product is just going to get stuck at the top, then you'll build a whole lot of screens, but you'll have nothing to put there. So it is also, the onus is on the producers to ensure that they equitably move their product down the chain to give those theaters the best opportunity of starting.
But I thought that now that we are out of the typical print era, that is not an issue. The width of release is not an issue. Is that still an issue?
It is not. It's not the biggest issue, but it continues to be an issue, right? Because if you're going to populate your theaters, your screens, and keep them in metros and keep them at high prices in terms of ticketing, that's not necessarily going to work for theaters down the chain in tier 2 and in the rural areas. So you have to look at pushing that product out as far as you can.
Any questions from the audience? I can't see because of this light in my eye, but any questions from the audience? Yeah. And please ask a question. Identify yourself, ask a question, not a comment.
Hi, I'm Justin from the Hollywood Reporter India. Two quick questions, one to Mr. Thomas. We were talking about Sitaare Zameen Par. Of course, the film had a theatrical release and PVR Inox was the distributor. Then the film goes on PVOD. Are you going to track how it's going to do on YouTube just to sort of get a sense of the market? how many people actually are interested in the model in this country? Because it's fairly new.
No, we don't have that access, what it is doing on that PVOD. That's your question, right? How it's doing
Yeah,
on YouTube.
yeah, yeah.
So I think AKPL will be the right people to answer you that
Well,
question.
but you know, Justin, you just do a basic maths. 1%, 44 crores. 2%, 88 crores. YouTube reaches 445 million Indians. And half of it will go to AKPL. So at least 1% it will do. Right?
Rahul, also, I had a question. I mean, we were talking about the window. Superman and Jurassic World, if I'm not wrong, both the films came on PVOD within 40 days. Now, these are big theatrical event films. Can that happen here in India? I mean, let's say, is there any world in which a War 2 or Coolie or name any other Hindi event film can do a business in theaters, run very well for 30 days, and then come on OTT without any protest or any complaints from exhibitors? Is there a world in which that model can come to India?
Yeah, I think there's a world in which that happens. I mean, see, at the end of the day, what are we talking about, right? We are talking about a producer who's releasing a film. And excuse me for a second, I'll put my producer's hat on for a minute here as well. A producer is releasing a film. They have a certain expectation that that film is going to bring in from the box office. They have a certain expectation that it's then going to do in the other ancillary rights. Okay. Their whole game in this is to optimize those rights, yeah, to get the maximum value out of it. Now the point here is that if I as a producer put my film in a theater and my film does fantastically well in those theaters for 4 weeks, there is an argument, there is a world in which those theater owners, those exhibitors, will be okay with the fact, having made enough money in those 4 weeks, they'll be okay with the fact that the film is releasing on transactional video on demand 4 weeks later, right? The point here is that I think we all have to forget about this when a film comes on a platform. A film will come on the platform when it needs to come on the platform. If you take Aamir's example, I can't remember, I think it was Three Idiots. At that time, obviously, there was no OTT. But he didn't put his film on satellite for, I think it was 6 months, or maybe even 8 months. It didn't come on satellite. Now, the point is, that is his personal choice. I'm sure there must have been satellite channels who were offering him tons of money to put the film on satellite TV 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks later. But that's his personal choice. His personal choice is that, no, my film is running, I will put it there. There have been other producers who have put the film on satellite. Forget OTT, but on satellite, they put it in 4 weeks. I've seen, I mean, there was a film called Blue that came on satellite TV in 4 weeks. The point here is that what is important is that the cinema owners, we as a community, we are not worried about when a film is going to come on that window. We should be worried about, has the producer done enough to create an intrigue, to get people into my theaters? That's the question. If everything, and I'm sorry to say, and this is not anything to the Hollywood Reporter, but I'm sorry to say that a lot of this OTT versus cinemas thing is created by the media. It's a media creation, as far as I'm concerned, right? It is something that is in the back of people's minds. Why? Because, sorry, but the media put it there. That's the truth of it. And this has always existed. It's not that it didn't exist before. Before it was OTT, it was cable and satellite. We were having the same arguments because people were making the same claims about, oh, cable and satellite, if it comes out 8 weeks on cable and satellite, what will happen to theaters? Theaters were just fine.
It's a revenue ecosystem.
Correct.
So 60%, 70% comes from box office, rest comes from others. It could increase to 80% tomorrow, or the whole pie could increase. OTT could bring in more TV. It's just a revenue ecosystem. But you keep saying intrigue and everybody says content. I don't see enough work happening on marketing, on
Absolutely.
getting people
Absolutely.
in. I find marketing is too digital oriented, too oriented to a trailer nikal diya YouTube pe and it game over. I remember Mirage Cinemas se somebody told me, who's watching the trailer? Russia, Ukraine, where are people watching this trailer? So I feel film marketing is a very weak link in the chain now, whether the theaters have to pull up the slack or whether the studios have. For two films I can name. I went for MI7, last MI, and I don't know, was it Sitaare Zameen Par? I couldn't find a poster in the theater to take a picture with. There was no, for MI7 there was no poster. For F1 there was no poster, by the way. And this is Icon, PVR Icon in Pune. So where is that thing happening? Why is marketing, I find marketing is really a weak link.
Definitely agree with that. There are times that a film is releasing and 3 days before, they will announce the date of release. And then they expect that it will move well, etc. To answer your question, sir, 4 weeks, I think typically 95% of theatrical box office of most of the films is in. And there are very few films which are actually getting the showcasing as well as audience interest to come after that. So that we need to keep in mind as well.
Vaishali, you want to say something on the marketing bit? Vaishali and Rahul Dhyani, I want you two guys to come in on the marketing bit. Do you find कि studios का problem है कि theaters का problem? Where do we, how do we get more sort of what Rahul calls, Puri calls intrigue into the whole thing?
I think both should go hand in hand. We also have to chip in lot of efforts. We also make lot of efforts to see that if the movie is good, you know, you bring in the reporters, ask them to write in the local papers that this movie is good. You know, we have a local newspaper called Star of Mysore and one more Kannada paper called Mysore Mitra. So they write about the movie, that it's a fantastic movie. And the minute the movie's review is there, I can clearly see the next day there is a spike in occupancy.
I actually have one more grouse. People don't know how to appreciate films, write and give reviews of the films.
That is a different, on film critics versus people who rate movies. Film criticism is a particular, there's a training.
It's an art. You have to be balanced about it. And most of us who are living, tough lives, this is an escape. It's an anytime holiday. You come to the cinema, you have a digital detox, you have no maid coming in asking you stuff. Nothing is happening. You're sitting and enjoying the air conditioning and going out. Why people are forgetting all that?
No, those are different. वो cinema studies वाले area में जा रहे हो, which is a different. Rahul, you want to say something about, especially because you give marketing support. What kind of marketing support do you give the theaters?
So first of all, we expect marketing support from the production houses and the filmmakers. But to pull crowd, to bring viewers to our cinemas, like we market offers. See, we cannot market films, right? We are marketing films, but we should market like offers or viewers retaining programs and all these things. Our facilities to the viewers. But major marketing support that we require from the production, as ma'am said, it's a win-win thing. We jointly have to do this thing. And we are trying hard to get viewers back to the cinemas. And in this digital era, it's been quite, becoming easy for us to, get the hold on it. Thank you.
Anybody has a question anywhere? Yeah. Could you reduce that light? It's just totally blinds.
Hi, Saili here. So what
From?
Saili from NY Cinemas.
Okay.
So what unique strategies or experiences we can create to want people to come back to theaters? Because pre-COVID, I used to go to theaters twice a month, and post-COVID now, pata hai OTT pe aa jayega. So last movie I've seen is Singham, which is last Diwali. So what would make me or anybody like me would go to the cinemas again?
That's what our whole discussion was about, but nevertheless.
I think there are two aspects of this. And again, I feel that the burden of that is unfairly put on cinemas. Why is that burden on cinemas? At the end of the day, you yourself have made the statement that you used to go to the cinemas twice, and now you haven't been since Singham, which was last Diwali. So it's been almost a year. I'd ask you, why haven't you been? I mean, you know, the cinemas haven't changed. The movie halls are the same. The same theaters that you used to go to pre-COVID, they're the same. If anything, they may have been renovated, they may have been spruced up, they may have been done up nicely, but they're the same. The reality is that there is a change in the mindset of consumer behavior that has happened post-COVID. And the reality is that, and I'm not just talking about the exhibition industry here, because I feel the entire film industry is part of this. We haven't done ourselves any help in the way that we have talked about our business post-COVID. We haven't done ourselves any good. We've talked about, we've been sucked into this discussion that OTT is going to eat us and YouTube is going to eat us and all of this thing. We've been constantly sucked into this discussion that we don't know how to make movies anymore and all our film. This is the discussion that we are constantly, it's doom and it's gloom. Now, I'm not a marketing person. Tushar is probably in a better position to talk to this. But when you put all of that out into the audience's mind, what is the audience sitting there thinking? Filmein to sab bakwas hai, theater to sab band hone wale hain, let's watch it on OTT, let's watch it on TV. That's the mindset that we're creating. Whereas I feel we need to celebrate what we do in the theaters. You know, we need to talk about how unique an experience this is. Tushar said at the start in his opening remarks, what a social experience this is. How this brings people together. You know, I know that there is this thing called Netflix and chill, but I'm sorry, there is no chill watching Netflix at home because the doorbell rings or people are talking or the phone rings or whatever. That shared experience can only come in the cinemas. It cannot come anywhere else. And that is something that we have to lean into. And we are not leaning into it. We are not leaning into it. Vanita brought up the point of too much reliance on digital marketing. At the end of the day, if you're going to continue to show the audience that all their best clips of the movie is on the mobile phone, why are they going to go to the theater? They're not going to go to the theater. They're just going to keep looking at it on their mobile phone. We have to broaden that out. You know, as a small anecdote, and to explain how old this problem is. There's a film called Karma, one of our films. Now, if you watched, Karma was made at a time when, again, this argument was theaters are dead. Video piracy was there, video parlors had come up. You know, everybody was talking about, nobody's going to go to the theaters anymore. Everybody's going to get VHS and watch it at home. Same argument. So what Subhashji did with Karma, I think Karma was one of the first films that was a 16-track film, 16-track sound. If we moved from 8-track to 16-track. And most of the theaters didn't have it. So he had to go on a PR activity to the theaters to say, listen, you have to invest in this technology because I'm bringing a 16-track film. And they're like, sir, koi hai nahi, there's nobody here. Look, the parking lot is empty, there's nobody in the theaters. But if you watch what he did with Karma, Karma opens up. For those first shots of Karma, the entire screen is small, right? To show the audience that, look, this is what it looks when it's this big. And then slowly the screen expands to that full 35 millimeter, that full, so that the audience understands and the sound kicks in and the audience is sucked in now to that theatrical experience. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to do gimmicks like that, but we do need to lean into the fact that cinema is different from home viewing. It is different. If we don't lean into that, I'm sorry, we are bringing ourselves into this argument that they are the same. They're not the same. It's like listening to Coldplay on Spotify versus watching them in concert. It's not the same.
Great example. And
Well
you
said.
should also talk about the cinematography of the film Karma. So it was shot in a manner that it was all tight shots. You could really, really not watch it and enjoy it on a video parlor. Okay, first of all, let's congratulate all of us that we survived COVID and we are here. I think that is one of the
Yeah,
biggest
yeah.
deals.
Any more questions? No. Okay, my last question, and then I think we'll wrap up because we are very close to 12 o'clock. Is capital an issue? Whether it is more screens, whether it is better marketing, is capital an issue as far as the theatrical world is concerned?
Apparently not for Rahul.
Rahul has just raised money, he's flush. He should be taking us all out for lunch and dinner. But generally, I don't see it as an issue, but I'm asking.
No, again, I mean, as somebody who's had a lot of experience in the capital markets, the reality is that capital markets are, the guys in capital markets, they're reading the same stuff that the consumer reads, because that's what's being put out in the media. If we put out in the media a stronger story around exhibition, of course there will be money that will come into it. At the end of the day, capital markets are things that revolve around the quality of the story that is put together, the quality of the investment story that is put together. We have to sell an investment story, and India has all of the brass tacks to sell that story. I mean, we've got the youngest population in the world. We've got a population that loves to watch content. They love to watch cinema. They're spending a lot of money on live events, which is an experiential thing. They're going out. It's not that our young people are sitting indoors and, no, they're going out. Theaters, we have to find a way to be able to capture that and pull it into where we are.
I find that Thomas and Vaishali haven't spoken enough. If you guys want to make any last remarks, please feel free. Vaishali?
No, I think what Rahul has said summarizes everything, for all of us.
Absolutely, I agree with what Rahul has just summarized.
Yani, you want to say something?
Same.
I'll just make one last point. In January this year, I write for Business Standard. January this year, I did a story and I spoke to Rahul also for it. Why this feeling of gloom and doom? Because the numbers were not so bad for 24. The 24 numbers were quite good. Why this feeling? And in July this year, I did a story which looked at, I said I'm sick of doing, because I think we need to talk about an expanding market. If the market expands, all these arguments are pointless. कितना पैसा किसको गया प्रोड्यूसर ने कितना जब मार्केट एक्सपैंड कर रहा है व्हेन इट इज एक्सपैंडिंग फ्रॉम 12,000 to 18 you sell a billion and a half tickets. I think all these arguments go away. I did a story which looked at 3 or 4 happy stories coming out of the film business. One was the Aamir Khan breaking the windows thing and saying, boss, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do it my way. 2 was SVF Entertainment doing backward integration. 3 was Dolby Cinemas, which is, has been investing, has made a lot of this thing. And I think there were 2-3 different things. But essentially that story, I put my work out on LinkedIn. That story got far more traction than the gloom. And so that made me happy that people were reading a story of growth, not a story of, because we all love our movies. We may hate them, we may criticize them, we may give them galis and everything, but we love our cinema. And on a final note, I think Indian cinema is fantastic because it is one of the few cinemas in the world which has survived for 110 years without state support, without quotas, without protection. We don't need protection, I'm not saying that we need, and therefore keeping the government out of cinema is very critical. I do not want the government deciding on windows. I think that might, because Hollywood has swamped every other market, it hasn't swamped India.
I think quality of content matters, the delivery matters. And another example is Korea. Korea has 100% digital penetration. They also have a thriving theatrical business and they export to the world. It's for us to do our bit
And
in
that's
our
another way
small
of expansion.
Yes.
Go out to the world.
Yes.
Great. On that happy note, thank you so much, all of you. All of you who spoke a lot and spoke little. I feel like everybody didn't get enough talk time, so I'm feeling a little conscious. But thank you so much. It was a lovely discussion.
Thank you.
Check. May I please request our speakers to remain with us on stage just a little longer. I request you to please remain seated. Let's have a huge round of applause for them, and we truly thank our eminent panel for such an insightful discussion on the future of multiplexes. India is the land of cricket and cinema. And today you have truly reinstated our faith in this industry, telling us that this is how it is just going to keep getting better as time passes. Bigger and better. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much once again. Let's have a huge round of applause for them. And we would like to take this moment to thank our speakers on the stage for taking our time to be here with us and share their thoughts with us today. We're truly delighted and inspired to listen to all of them share their thoughts with us. May I please invite on stage Raghav to take this moment and on behalf of the big Cine Expo, present mementos thanking our wonderful speakers on the stage for their time, their presence, and their sharing of thoughts today. May I please request our panelists to kindly come together for a group photo op on stage. It would be wonderful if you can hold your mementos as well, please. Raghav, please join us.